Good day, class. Today I'll share to you the basic steps for writing a research paper. This is from the book A Manual for Writers of Research Paper, Theses and Dissertations by Kate Turabian. Now, this material, class, will help you in formulating your research questions and objectives. So I hope you will listen carefully, take note, and also review the module which I will send to you later. Hopefully, this lesson will help you grasp the benefit of this academic writing task or research paper that you're going to do and your role as a researcher. But first, let us review or let us first define what research really is and how do researchers think. Now, every time you ask a question and look for facts to answer it, whether the question is as simple, let's say, as finding a plumber or a worker, or as profound as discovering the origin of life, it's already a research work. Now, usually you do quick research when you prepare for a report. Let's say you are assigned as the reporter of a certain topic in a particular subject. But academic research paper is doing your report in writing. So it's not really a quick report that you're going to do. It requires time and more effort. So you must report your research in writing when others will accept your claims only after the study how you reach them. After they study how you reach them. So let's say uh, when you present your paper to your advisor and to other readers in the academic world, then they're going to accept your claims only upon investigating or analyzing how you reach that particular claim. So reports of research tells us most of what we can reliably believe about anything or things in this world, from subjects as science, social science, and anything around the world. Now, don't you know that research actually benefits you? So this is not just a subject just for you to, go through, and this is not just part of the curriculum. This is not just a part of the curriculum for nothing. It actually trains you or allows you to develop your writing skills and many others. So you may think that your research paper may not really add to the world's knowledge. In fact, there are many information that you can find online. But when you do your research, it actually, as I've said earlier, develops your abilities, many abilities and skills. So this will help you not just in your present situation, but also when you become a professional. Now, research is as important outside the academy as in, and in most ways it is the same. So as you practice, now you practice the craft of academic research, you prepare yourself to do research that one day will be important, at least to those you work with. Let's say you work as a teacher, you will still be doing research, action research, and many others. In every profession, researchers must read and evaluate reports. So kahit anong trabaho ninyo, class, you will still read and evaluate reports before you make a decision. A job you'll do better only after you have learned how others will evaluate yours. So this will also help you develop your critical thinking skills. and how you judge the work of others, and also learn how to judge your own work. Now, this lesson focuses on research in the academic world. So, hindi muna tayo dun sa outside. Our focus now is academic research work. Now, here, you will be trained to write a basic social research paper, and now you will be given time to prepare your research questions. But before that, it's also important for you to know how research writing is different from other forms of writing. So, how is it really different from other types of paper? Now, as you see in a research paper, for you to reach good conclusions, let's say you have a claim and you have investigated, analyzed some data, and you have reached a conclusion. Now, for you to do that, you have to prove what you are saying to be, or whatever it is that you are claiming through reasons and evidence. So, a research paper is not um, just a paper that states an opinion or describes a feeling, but in a research paper, you try to explain to others your particular claims based from what you have studied, meaning to say you have evidence. You have this particular set of evidence that you will present to your readers in order for them to also believe or to justify what you are claiming. Now, that is how a research report differs from all other kinds of writing, is particularly from other kinds of persuasive writing. So, a persuasive writing is a form of writing wherein the writer aims um, to persuade, yan, to let the readers know about a particular information, and to encourage them to believe the facts that you are presenting. So a research report differs from advertisements or from other persuasive writing because it shares facts that readers accept as truths independent of their feelings and beliefs. So it follows or it includes reasons from evidence that could help your readers accept what you are claiming, or your the claim you draw from your study. So your success as a researcher depends not just on how well you gather and analyze data, but also on how clearly you report your reasoning so that your readers can test, analyze, and judge it before making your claims as part of their knowledge and understanding. So parang ang dami ko nang nabanggit na ano, it simply means that when you do your research, you actually um, you present something to you present a particular fact to your readers, and you want them to understand where you are coming from by presenting to them your reason and your evidence as part of your claim and your conclusion. Now, that's why a researcher's goal doesn't just include collecting information or facts, which we call data, but actually, a researcher could have different goals or aims with the use on how they will use the data. So, depende sa aim or experience ng researcher, yung kanyang paggagamit ng mga data na na-collect niya. So, example, there are some researchers who will just gather or collect data on a topic just because they're interested about it. So they just want to know more about the topic. So other researchers, um, of course, want to know more than just facts. So aside from collecting those information, other researchers, they want to look for a specific data that they can use as evidence to test and support an answer to a question that their topic inspired them to ask. So some researchers, so upon knowing this information, they have developed these questions in their mind. And when they do their research, they want that question to be answered by, again, getting evidence or anything that could support an answer to that particular question. Experienced researchers also know that they must do more than convince us that their answer is sound. They must also show us why their questions was worth asking. So when we say experienced researchers, they don't just ask, or they're not just satisfied um, with the, formulating questions, but they also want to show the readers that their question was worth asking, because perhaps when that question is answer it could help solve some concerns in a new way. So if we can figure out, let's say, why COVID-19 again is, let's say, rising in a particular location, then we might be able to answer a larger question. Why is it still spreading on the national or, let's say, global level? So that's how researchers, show that their work is significant because it can help solve bigger issues in the society. Now that you are a values education students, you also want your topic, of course, or you are, of course, interested in many topics. But as a researcher, you want to develop research questions which you think would hopefully help other people better understand a particular issue, a significant one. So here, you can judge how closely your thinking tracks could be close to an experienced researcher by describing your project in a sentence like this. So here's an example from the book of Kate about how you can formulate or start when you're still in that phase wherein you are formulating your research questions. So here are three things that you could ask yourself or your group mates together with your group mates. So number one, you can say, I am working on the topic of blank. Okay, so think of a topic that you're interested in, and move on to number two, because you want to find out why. Yan. Find out why. And of course, don't forget number three, so that you can help others understand. Yan. So mamaya, you will complete this statements with your group mates. Okay. So, but before that, here's another thing that you have to um, know. There are three kinds of questions that researchers ask. Okay, so in a nutshell, the three questions include conceptual questions, practical questions, and applied questions. Now, experienced researchers also know that different readers expect them to ask and answer different kinds of questions. Now, the most common questions in academic work are conceptual. So, class, in this particular subject, you will be making, mamaya, you will be preparing 3 or 4 conceptual questions. The second and the third type of questions are often um, used in the higher level. Okay, so the practical and the applied one. So let's move on to the conceptual question. So what do we mean when we say conceptual questions? These are questions that answer what, okay? What? So conceptual questions, what should we think? So a question is conceptual when your answer to so what doesn't tell readers what to do, but it actually just helps them understand, take note, some issue. Okay, so this type of question, it doesn't tell your readers what they need to do or what to do, but you just present to them your you just want to do or look for answers to better understand a particular issue. Okay, so nabanggit ko na kanina itong research three-part sentence that you can complete so that you can formulate your research question on a particular topic. So number one, I'm working on the topic of blank because I want to find out how, why, or whether blank is blank so that I can help others understand how, why, whether blank. Okay, so yun po ang cover ng conceptual questions and this is what you will formulate later with your group mates. So conceptual questions, what should we think? So ito nga po, researchers in the humanities and the social and natural sciences work mostly on conceptual questions. So here are just some examples of research questions that social science students formulated. How did Shakespeare's political environment influence his plays? Or what caused the extinction of most large North American mammals? And another question, what are comets made of? So yun po. These are examples of conceptual questions. The answers to those questions don't tell us how to change the world or the school, but they do help us understand a particular aspect of a topic better. Now, let's just go quickly with the practical and then the applied questions, although these are not the questions that you will be doing in this particular research. So, practical questions. What should we do? So, these types of questions, um, it's doesn't just answer, so what? But it tells reader what to do to change or fix some troublesome or at least improvable situation. And for those who will develop practical questions, you can start by uh, doing this three-part sentence in your research question. I'm working on the topic of X because I want to find out why. So what if you do? So that I can tell readers what to do to fix or improve. Now, practical questions are common outside the academic world, specifically in business. So, in academic fields, healthcare, engineering, researchers sometimes ask practical questions, but more often they ask a third kind of question that is neither purely practical nor purely conceptual. Not we call the next one applied research, or here the researchers ask applied questions. What must we understand before we know what to do? Okay, so yun po ang sinasabing applied questions. And this is common to academic fields such as business, engineering, medicine, government agencies. They do research in order to help the government before the government do something, or let's say before they implement something, they conduct research. Now let's just focus on making a conceptual question. So what are the challenges, the special challenge of conceptual questions? So what? With most practical questions, we don't have to answer, so what? Because the benefit is usually of use. Even most applied questions imply the practical benefits of their answers. Actually, few readers would question why a researcher is trying to understand what causes Alzheimer's. So, with conceptual questions, however, the answer to so what is often not obvious at all, even to unexperienced researcher. Okay. So make sure that the research questions that you will be formulating would actually not give obvious answers. Okay. Something that really would steer your mind uh, to search for the answers to those questions so that you'll better understand a particular subject. Now, for a research paper in an introductory course, of course, as your teacher, okay? Well, I just I am concerned with how you will draft your research question because it will be one of your starting point that will lead you to um, in conducting your research. So before you collect data and so on and so forth, so you start with formulating your research questions. Now, um, for your particular task for your academic paper, we shall try to answer conceptual questions. So the good thing is you'll be doing this by group. Now, as you do this, you will learn to succeed at every experienced researcher's toughest task. So take note, class. One of your goal is to convince your readers that your report is worth their time. Oh, so of course, who will you convince to read your report or to think that your report is something significant? Of course, I will read your research, and the next research students who will find your research paper on our school's file. Now, as you prepare for your research, here this five should be included in your task. Okay, there are many tasks that you could divide and of course share with your group mates, but make sure that these five are included. The first one is to ask a question worth answering. And something that's not so obvious, but you think it's important to know or dig deep and know the answer. Find evidence. Okay, find an answer that you can support with good reasons. Now, once you, let's say you have an educated guess and you want to see if that answer is actually, well, uh, one way to answer that question, then you can find that answer and find supporting facts or information with good reasons. How can you do that? Well, find reliable evidence to support your reasons. So later on with this class, we will try to give you examples of what we mean by reliable evidence. Now, after you do that, you can start drafting a report, meaning your research paper. That makes a good case for your answer. And then later on, revise the draft until readers will think you met the first four goals. Now, those are the challenges. Now, next time I will discuss or help you also how to write an introduction that motivates your readers at least to start reading your report. How can you get your interest? How can you get your readers interested in your report? Now, moving on from a topic, let's say before I discuss this, you already have a topic in mind, but you're not yet sure about the research question you have formulated. So here are steps that you could take in a nutshell. Now, here it is. Number one, find a question in your topic Next is propose some working answers. Third is build a storyboard to plan and guide your work. Number four, organize a writing support group. Okay, let's move on to some details about number one. The first step is find a question in your topic. Yun nga po. Ito yung gagawin ninyo with your group mates to find a question in the topic you are interested in. So, well, researchers or different people, different students begin projects in different ways. Many experienced ones begin with a question that others in their field want to answer. Okay, so kayo sa values education class, what question, okay, do you want to answer in your field? Okay, now they know moreover that the best research question is not one whose answer others want to know just for its own sake. It is one that helps them understand some larger issue. Okay, so what again? Okay, so then there are those questions that just pop into a researcher's mind with no hint of where they lead, sometimes about matters so seemingly trivial that only the researchers thinks they're worth answering. Well, ako po, I think when I see your research questions, and I see, even if it seems like it's trivial, but well, if it's worth answering for you, then I could approve that. Okay? In fact, some questions might lead nowhere, but you can't know that until you see its answer. In fact, you know, some scientists puzzled by coffee rings made discoveries about the behavior of fluids that others in his field thought important, and that, you know, paint manufacturers actually found valuable. Oh. So who knows where you might go with a question like, um, how many cats uh, uh, stay inside the campus or whatever? How many values education students, um, let's say, find Google Meet or Zoom uh, helpful in their studies? Some any questions that you have in mind. So cultivate the ability to see what's odd in the commonplace, and you'll never lack for research projects as either a student or a professional. Now, here are some other steps that you can consider. Make sure that the topic or the research question in your topic is related to what you're really interested to. Okay, so search your interests by asking yourself, what topics do I already know something about, and but I can still learn more? What would you like to know more about? A place, a person, a time, an object, an idea, or a process? Next, can you find a discussion list on the web about issues that interest you? What issues in your field have you debated with others, then found that you couldn't back up your views with good reasons and evidence? So perhaps before you cannot, you are trying to defend a particular concern or idea, but before you cannot explain that with good reasons and evidence, perhaps you can do it now with your research paper. Next is, what issues do people outside your field misunderstand? Yung mga topics na parang often misunderstood by others. Perhaps you can do a research about it. Next, what topic is your teacher working on? What would she like you to explore a part of it? Yeah, so you can also ask other teachers or instructors in your values education um, course. Now, you can also ask this question: does your library have rich resources in some field? Mhm. What other courses will you take in your field or out of it? Mhm. And if you have a job in mind, what kind of research report might help you get it? Oh, so kasama pala yon. And of course, you could scheme a journal, mga education journal, yeah, that reviews the year's work in your field. Now, academic research is meant to be shared, but the understanding it brings is also valuable to you too. So think ahead, look for a project that might help you or others a year from now or years from now. So keep in mind though that you may be in for a long relationship with your topic. So in our case, you only have 4 months or roughly 3 months to do your research paper. Next is make your topic manageable. So if you pick a topic, well, you'll find some sources that you can spend a lot of time reading about them. So you must make sure to yeah, carve out your topic in a manageable piece. So how can you do that? You can start before you head to the library by limiting your topic. Okay. Take note, limiting your topic. If it's still too broad, so try to limit it. How can you limit it? So check the different aspects of the topic that you're interested in. Okay. So, for example, here are 3 words that for example, here, you want to know about this. So, the first one, let's say you're interested in the wearing of masks in religious ceremonies. Okay? Is it too broad? Yes, it is. Now, next, mass as symbols in Hopi. Okay, it's a particular religion. Okay, so it's already okay carved out, or you have already limited it, but you can still limit it into this religious ceremonies, mud head mask. So now it's a particular kind of mask. Mud head masks as symbols of sky spirits and happy fertility ceremonies. So mas na, kumbaga mas na limit a religious ceremony. Ano pa yung type of mask? Mud head. And what are these? It's a symbol of fertility in Hopi religious ceremony. So you might not be able to focus your topic until after you start reading about it. So mahalaga po pala yung preliminary, sa preliminary work nyo yung you read a lot of literature related to your topic. Okay? So skim a survey of your topic, skim subheads, search the internet for the topic, but be cautious about what you find. Especially um, useful are topics that spark debate. Ayan. So take note, you can relate to that. Next is question your topic. Ayan na, question your topic. Do this not just once early on, but throughout your project. Ask questions as you read, especially how and why. Try the following kinds of questions. The categories are loose and overlap, so don't worry about keeping them distinct. Number one question, ask how the topic fits into a larger context. So once you have you're formulating your question, research question, ask yourself, does it fit the historical context, social context, cultural, geographic, functional, economic, and so on. Now, ask yourselves, how does my topic fit into a larger story? Okay. How is my topic a functioning part of a larger system? How is my topic, how can I compare and contrast my topic with other topics like it? Okay. Next is ask questions about the nature of the thing itself as an independent entity. How has your topic changed through time? How do the parts of my topic fit together as a system? How many different categories of my topic are there? Okay, so ang dami palang pwede mong itanong sa iyong sarili as you prepare your research questions. And now, as you search what you're interested in and make your topic manageable by limiting it to a more specific question, and then you begin to question your topic. You also evaluate your question. So how do you evaluate your questions? Again, there are many questions that you can ask yourself, and you could read this in the module. So you can ask a positive question or a negative question about the topic. You can ask speculative questions or what if questions. Ask questions that reflect disagreements with a source. You can also ask questions that build on agreement. Ask questions analogous to those that others have asked about similar topics. Okay, look for questions that other researchers post but don't answer. Meron po mga ibang research na there are, in some aspect of their research, may hindi pa nasagot. Perhaps yun yung gusto mong sagutan. Number 10, the next one, find a web discussion list on the topic you prefer to work on. Marami kang mahahanap pa doon mga tanong na mga mas specific and you can narrow your focus. Now, it's time to evaluate your questions. Not all answers are equally useful, so evaluate your questions. So, sa dinami-dami ng mga questions na naisip mo about a particular topic, now it's time for you to select. So, yung mga questions that, how do you do that? So, how do you check if yun na talaga yung research question na ipapas mo kay ma'am? Well, you can consider this question, the following. Okay? So, pwede mo siyang tanggalin sa mga napili mong research question if the answer to the question you have written is too easy or obvious. Na pwede naman nilang isang type nila sa Google, nandun na yung sagot. So, X na dapat yun sa research mo. Next, pwede mong i-X ito sa research paper mo if you can't find good evidence to support the answer. Wala pang relevant facts that exist. Let's say mga aliens or kung ano man ang gusto mong pang pag-usapan, or if you have to read too many sources and it will not fit the specific time. Yan. So, ang hirap sa researchers if you can't get the sources that your readers think are crucial. Okay? So, number 3, if the research question you have written, you can't plausibly disprove the answer. The answer seems self-evident because the evidence overwhelmingly favors one answer. Okay. So, if ganon na na-formulate mong tanong, X na yun. Don't also reject all questions that you have formulated because you think someone must already have asked it. But, if you want to pursue its answer, as if you ask first, you may still do that or submit that to your teacher. Even if someone has answered it, you might come up with a better answer or at least one with a new slant in the topic, specifically in the humanities and social sciences. The best questions usually have more than one good answer. You know, you can do a lot of research now on changing of behaviors, or you want to dig deep about, what the students are going through now. So ngayon lang tayo nagka-pandemic, and there are many things that, changed. So perhaps you can check some topics na interesado kayo about these changes. The point is to find a question that you want to answer. Take note, find a question that you wanna answer. Mm. So the goal here is to learn to find your own answers to your own question. So isa yan sa goal ng education. For the student to learn how to find the answers to your own questions. And to do that, you must learn to wonder about things, to let them puzzle you, particularly about things that seem most commonplace. Now, next thing that you should do is propose some working answers. Now, how do you do that? So now that you have a question, a research question, you can now start proposing some working answers. Before you get deep into your project, try one more step. It is one that some beginners resist, but that experienced researchers usually attempt. Once you have a research question, try to imagine some plausible answers, no matter how sketchy or speculative. So ito na yung mga educated guess mo, hypothesis. So at this stage, don't worry whether they're right. So that comes later. Ito, another example for social science. For example, suppose you ask, why do some religions use masks in ceremonies? Ngayon, iba na ang tanong na to because we really use masks because it is required by the government. But in some religious groups, yung meron silang takip sa mukha even before the pandemic. So you can speculate answers by starting with maybe. Maybe cultures with many spirits need masks to distinguish them. Maybe masks are common in their culture. Maybe religions originating in the Middle East were influenced by the Jewish prohibition against idolatry. So even a general answer can suggest something worth studying. Maybe it has to do with the role of masks in non-religious areas of a culture. Oh, so itong tanong na to is something that is yeah, relevant pa din in our time. Okay? Try to imagine at least one plausible answer, no matter how tentative or speculative. If after lots of research you cannot confirm it, you can organize a report around why that answer seemed reasonable at the time, but turned out to be wrong. Isn't isn't worth the time of other researchers. Hmm. Okay. So once you have drafted or written some plausible answers, okay, even if you prefer one, you can improve it by testing it against the others. So pwede pala yun. So one or two of the plausible answers you have thought of, you can actually test it once you conduct your research. After you have collected data and you're ready to test your working hypothesis. So how you cannot show that an answer is right if you can also show why others are wrong. Hmm. So consider that when you do your research. Even early in the project, write out your answers as clearly and as fully as you can. It is too easy to think that you have a clear idea when you don't. Now, the next step is to decide on a working hypothesis. If one answer seems promising, well, you can call it your working hypothesis. Hypothesis is an educated guess or answer to your question, and you can use it to guide your research. You can, of course, look for evidence with no more than a question to guide you because any question limits the number of plausible answers. But even the most tentative working hypothesis helps you to think ahead, especially about the kind of evidence that you'll need to support it. Ano ba yung mga pwedeng pang-support na evidence to your working hypothesis? Will you need numbers, quotations, observations, images, historical facts? More important, what kind of evidence would disprove your hypothesis? answer those questions and you know the kind of data to watch for and to keep. In fact, until you have a hypothesis, you can't know whether any data you collect are relevant to any question worth asking. So if you cannot imagine any working hypothesis, reconsider your question, review your list of exploratory questions to find one that you can answer. Now, if you should you decide to start over with a new topic, well, that really costs time in the short run, but it may save you from a failed project. So mahalagang you do these steps para early on, you already know if may patutunguhan ba yung research mo or wala. Okay? Mhm. Now, beware, there are risks in a working hypothesis. So, ang risk dito sabi ko nga, if you already settle on a final answer too soon, ito yung minsan nagiging concern ng mga new researchers. Okay? So, there is some risk of when you are afraid to consider any working hypothesis early in their project, even one they hold lightly, because they fear it might bias their thinking. There is some risk of that, but a working hypothesis need not close your mind to a better one. Even the most objective scientist, meaning ang kanyang mga claims are not based from his or her own opinion or feeling. Kaya siya nasabing objective. Even the most objective scientist devises an experiment to test for just a few predicted outcomes, often just one. In fact, researchers who don't state a hypothesis usually have one in mind but don't want to seem publicly committed to it. Okay, so beware the risk in a working hypothesis. So even there's a risk, it's better to start with a flawed or imperfect hypothesis than with none at all. So if you can't find an answer, argue for your question. So yan na po ang next or last step in proposing some working answers. So if you can't find an answer, argue for your question. So we have focused on questions so much that you might think that your project or research paper fails if you cannot answer yours. In fact, much important research explains why a question no one has asked should be, even though the researcher can't answer it. Example, do turtles dream? Why is yawning contagious but being sleepy isn't? Or is it? So such reports focus on why the question is important and what a good answer might look like. Or you may find that someone has answered your question. Perhaps you can read on the internet, may sagot naman dito about turtles, having that mga animals pala ay nakakapanaginip din or mga aso. Or yung pag hihikab ay nakakahawa pero yung pagiging antukin ay hindi or actually oo pala. You may find that someone has already answered that question pero perhaps kulang or perhaps hindi pala tama. Perhaps you can find the right answer to help your readers understand a particular aspect of a topic more clearly. So you help your readers by showing that a widely accepted one is wrong. Malay nyo meron sa inyo may ganon. Next step, build a storyboard to plan and guide your work. And here are 4 steps that you can consider. State your question and working hypothesis. So dapat meron ka nang naisulat na research question and yung iyong plausible answer. Now, after that, you can already draft your reasons. So each reason might support your best hypothesis. Pwedeng isa or dalawang hypothesis. Then next is sketch in the kind of evidence you should look for. So at this early, you should sketch the kind of evidence you should look for. Naalala niyo yung mga kind of evidence? Pwede bang kailangan mo ba ng numbers? meaning percentage, or yan, pag-aralan yung kung ilan, marami, konti, quotations, observations, historical facts, images, and so on. So for each reason, sketch the kind of evidence that you think you'll need to support it. And lastly, look at the whole. So yan na. Yung plano mo, yung draft mo, um, pag-aralan mo na yung mga steps, yung process, yung order, yung importance niya, yung possible length, yung complexity. Yan. So you can draft already your sections, which I already forwarded to you, the parts of your research paper. Yan, yun yung mga parts ng research mo. Pwede mo na siyang i-draft. Okay? So yan po ang steps that you should take in a nutshell sa paggawa nyo ng research work. And ito po, i-discuss ko sa susunod, how you will organize now your draft together with your teammates. But for now, this is what I want you to accomplish. Please complete this 3-part sentence. Pwede kayong mag-submit ng 3 or 4 topics with your research question in mind. Okay, this is for my approval. So, ang ikukompleto nyo pong sentence ay ganito: I'm working on the topic blank because I want to find out blank so that I and you can better understand blank. Okay, so that will be it, class, for now. Okay, please read your module and listen to this video. Thank you. Bye.